All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Wednesday, November 3rd, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back for our afternoon meeting. We should be good to go across both ends here live inside our live trading room. We have Norman and Bill and Andrea joining us here. And hey, if you're joining us once again on Facebook Live or YouTube, our social streams, welcome on back. So, you're telling me, Andrea, he says, wow, 2:30 already. Yeah, you're telling me. I just got back to my desk. I thought it was like 2:09. I looked at the clock. It was 2:29. Jeez. All right, so we got Ford on the screen here. We do have to go pretty fast because we are finishing up the Phase 2 stock course curriculum today. We'll be talking all about all-time highs and lows coming up at 3:05 Eastern Time. So for all of our gold, platinum, and diamond CTU students, thank you very much, Rich. I just saw he had posted the link for that class coming up inside the chat board there. So if you want to get in and prep up early, make sure that you're squared away and good to go. Just make sure you click the link and you'll be good. Now, for the meantime, though, Ford on the screen, it's only up 2.5%, but hey, making a pretty strong push right now. It's at the highs. I know that we just came off the Fed meeting, so they had left the rates unchanged. I know that they had mentioned asset tapering beginning. What was it, midway through next year, if I'm not mistaken? That was the title that I saw on Fox Biz. It looks like Powell's speaking right now. So we might have a little activity here to work with going into the close. I mean that across the board in terms of the markets. The SPY hasn't really pulled back down, actually making another push up to the highs here. So hopefully it's a really nice close, really strong green close for us. But for the meantime, Ford, it's on the screen here. If it was up a lot more, I'd be definitely more keen to put it on the main list. I may put it on our list at the end of it all. Definitely a worthy side list stock at a minimum. I'd rather see if there's any faster movers out there first. And like I said, I'll come back to this if we need to at the end. But to begin, we'll go right from top to bottom with that in mind. PTPI ended up making a nice big pop earlier today, but I may as well say it here because if I don't say it here, I'll probably say it on the next stock. When the volume dies off, well, so does the stocks. So that's what happened right there. Ended up beginning to make a nice run up towards 350. And then once it really broke the iceberg there, it didn't move much higher. It came right back down. And you see that volume drop off. That's what I'm referring to right there. You got XRTX, a bit of a tongue twister stock. And well, I'll tell you what, we had class this morning, the Phase 2 stock course. We were talking about gap fills, at least, and otherwise known as the dead cat bounce, DCB. Well, so to say, the stock had filled the gap pretty nicely here. It made a gap going back into the beginning or midway of October. And today ended up making a pretty nice run. Ended up moving up towards the high today of right around 423. The low here is 449, so it didn't technically fill it picture perfect, but obviously did a pretty good job filling in the gap there on the daily. So, XRTX, maybe a good side list stock to keep in mind coming tomorrow. RRD, I was actually interested in this stock only for the sake that it's actually at 52-week highs. I don't know if this is all-time high territory. Kind of looks like it is. But the reason we're not going to put this on the main list, that's unfortunately not all-time highs. But either way, you look at the way this stock's moving here so far on the chart, you could assume at least, and I'm going to confirm on Benzinga Pro right now, but what is this, buyout? There we go. John wrote in the chat board, read as I was kind of saying that. Yeah, it's a buyout. So anytime a stock is trading this much volume and it's this flat, you just know it's not worth it. All right. Well, a stock that seems to be at least worth it looking at it right now, KPTI, the volume died off, but the stock didn't really completely dump back down. I mean, it shook down here, but retraced up a bit. It ended up making a small little bounce back up so far heading into the afternoon. So I don't know. I'm a little bit more interested in this KPTI than anything. I think this will make the main list for right now. And it's also shortable. God forbid if this doesn't continue pushing up the way that we would want it to. Hey, if it ends up breaking back below support, perhaps that could be a pretty interesting short opportunity as this stock is easy to borrow. See that happen quite a bit, right? CRTO a little too expensive for us, at least normally is. BBBY. So we'll talk about this very briefly. For as much as this stock popped and ran going into the after hours yesterday, Well, hey, the stock was easy to borrow this morning. So, and it ended up dropping off right out the gate and only continued to go. So, this was a hell of a short trade to work with by the time the market opened up. It ended up breaking below support a bit later on off of 22, and that's what led this to drop back down a bit further. So, for right now, I'm not as particular about it here. The reason I say that is because the stocks just traded a ton of volume today. I mean, today alone, 93.5 million shares. Trades about 8 million shares on average across the last 50 days. So I know that number could be a bit skewed at times, but it's definitely trading much more compared to what it normally does. So, it's more likely to be exhausted. I mean, I said that yesterday on OCGN. Well, stock ended up making a nice bounce for us into the close. So I could be wrong, but it's just to say the reason I was happy to be wrong here is not only were we at least we'd called it out right off this pop, but given the range, this stock just had great volatility as a 10, 12, $15 stock. You could have easily said the same earlier on Bed Bath Beyond, but right now, hey, just really flat right now. So I don't know. I'm not too keen on it here for the close. Obviously, we'll check back in with it come tomorrow morning. Definitely going to keep it on our side list at least. All right, so we keep going down the gainers list for right now, folks. You would think with the market popping and up coming off the Fed meeting that there would be some stocks moving with the market at a minimum, if not up a lot. So, I don't really see too many other familiar names across the gainer side. MDXG is one of them, and at the highs, just flat. Big Five Sporting Goods. Ooh, this is actually a pretty interesting play. And the only reason I say that is because I know this stock is very heavily shorted. The short interest on this stock is pretty high. So with that, this stock is making a nice new high of the day here. Not all-time highs. Got a little ways to go, I think, for that. But you know what? The way the stock is moving for us into the close, this Big Five Sporting Goods trade, BGFV, probably more of a level 3 trade and up, just given how thin the order book is here. But I like the trend. I like this a lot, actually. We know what happens with stocks that are very heavily shorted with them moving up higher going into the afternoon. So this has the makings for a really nice pop and run to it. All right. We'll see what else we got, though, folks. We'll jump over to the loser side for right now. I am in one position, but it's not really popping up that much since I started the meeting. I was actually pretty jumpy to talk about it. And with this stock popping right now, actually, that could be a good reason to see the stock that I'm in make a big move. I'll get to that at the end. For all of us live inside Cyber Group, I was actually talking about this trade all throughout the morning going into the afternoon. So I'll wrap up with it, and we'll get to Bitcoin too. So they go hand in hand with each other. That'll be my hint. But as we transition over to the losers list, ATY down 26+%, and it is shortable, at least on TradeStation. It's not at all-time lows, but obviously making a big drop and has only dropped off really since the pop that it had to begin this year. So made a run from like 4 or 5 all the way up to 24, $25. Got crushed over time on the weekly chart, ended up just gradually dropping off. I'll tell you right now, the order book I love. It's cheap. It's right at the lows. It's shortable. I like it. ATY. Well, talk about Zillow. We may as well put Zillow back on the main list. We did it yesterday, and it was pretty expensive back yesterday, and so only dropped off more today. Another 25% drop this morning, and yeah, right now, I mean, nothing looking good for Zillow, unless if you're short on it, of course. But no, we talked about it yesterday. Zillow came out with news that they're selling like 200,000 homes or 175,000 homes that they ended up purchasing over the last year or two, lower compared to what they had purchased them for. I guess they had some project with, home rebuying and flipping and all of that didn't work out. I don't know. But that was the news snippet that I read. And then alongside that, they, I think, had earnings this morning. So we ended up seeing a big drop off going into the market open here today. And with it at the lows, it's hard for me to not put this Zillow trade on the main list. I don't know if ZG is with them. Yeah, it is. I guess that's a separate equity, but same company, Zillow, like UA and UAA. Tupperware dropping off. Wow, we have more stocks that are dropping off steadily so far, really than anything else, and the markets are really moving up pretty nicely. So Tupperware, I don't know what's going on here, but at the lows, also very shortable. So we'll put this on our list too. All right, so that just about does it here across the gainers and losers lists, folks. I mean, hey, there's still a lot that we didn't really touch that could be up or down more than 5%. So if there is anything else, folks, let me know. Type it in the chat board. It definitely wouldn't shock me by the end of it. Oh, well, definitely now. Yeah, certainly. I was going to say by the end of this meeting, if nothing else, then I would easily put Ford on the main list. But with the way this is popping now, either way, we're going to put this on the main watch list here. So definitely Ford. All right. So I want to talk about the trade that I'm in. I'm not going to put this trade on the afternoon list, so to say, but I had made mention of this trade right after the market opened up. When myself and Fausto were on the audio commentary, I told you folks I jumped into a trade on BTBT, Bit Digital, and I told you at the time because it's something I don't say often, but this is a swing trade for me right now. Last night, I was at my desk at my house doing a little studying on charts and stocks that have high short interest. So again, going back to it was the Big Five sporting goods trade. If you look on MarketWatch.com, FinViz, etc., Big Five is one of the most heavily shorted stocks in the market. Number one as of today and of yesterday, BTBT. Now, that's not the main reason, or that's not the only reason I should say I jumped into the trade. It was right off support. I charted this stock on the weekly. I ended up identifying a pretty strong support roughly here, roughly around, and the price I had was 1131. That was just the line I drew. And nonetheless, well, today ended up just pulling right down to that level, right back up. Now I jumped in. Now it's not just to say I jumped in because of support and I jumped in because it's a high short interest stock, but it's a stock that follows Bitcoin. So if I'm expecting Bitcoin to make this big run in the next 2 months, then I would only assume BTBT to a fair degree, not, perfect carbon copy, but to a very good degree, I would expect for it to go with it. I mean, obviously, we've been calling out and following Riot and Mara on the swing trade for really the last year and a half now. Really, back from this time last year at a minimum, we were talking about jumping in Riot when it was a $3-4 trade, and same with Mara. Well, if BTBT is even more shorted compared to those, and if we're expecting this bottleneck reaction on Bitcoin to see it break a new all-time high, then my belief at least is that Bit Digital, BTBT, is going to really go with it, make a really big parabolic move. So, certainly that's my hope, that's my expectation. I'm in the trade right now from 1132. I'm likely going to keep all of my shares, across this week and next, and we'll see what happens to it going forward. But I wanted to let you folks know. Now, if we look at the Bitcoin chart really quickly, not a whole lot's happened since, or at least since back from Monday of this week. But if anything, I ended up changing these lines a bit. I just re-put in different levels, but 60,000 in blue, and then the upper blue line here, this is the line I moved. I moved it up to 63,700. It's just to say, it's been holding so well underneath this resistance, and I was trying to mark it pretty nicely back on Monday, but I was off by a few hundred points. It's just to say, I moved the line up here. It just seems like it's had a tough time truly breaking this range and continuing. So, hey, my expectation is that we're going to get that pop much sooner than later. And God forbid if it holds here and drops back down, then in that case, I would just say that there's a good chance we could see it drop back down to the 200 EMA on my 6-hour graph. And then from that point, get the real pop back up. I honestly don't think that's going to happen, though. I honestly do not think that will happen. I think that from this point, we'll get a much bigger pop coming up shortly from now. But we'll see. All right, folks, that's all I got for you on the Bitcoin front. It's really a time-based event. I mean, if you've been following me here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, going into the afternoon meeting, I've been talking about Bitcoin and all of this and all of that. I've been calling for the top to be around January, February time. So here we are just in the beginning of November. We got a long ways to go, folks. I mean, in relation to where this all started, not much time is left, but there's still about 2 full months, in my opinion, before the top hits. So I think that's enough time to see some really big moves in Bitcoin and some of the stocks that follow it. All right. 3-cent loss on Tupperware from Norman. That's all right. Sorry to hear that, but Yeah. I mean, right now, I don't know if there was. I mean, the volume's dying off here, so really, I don't think there was much of an iceberg that broke off of 1950. Maybe it goes back up towards where we had support break from earlier, and then it will drop back down. Tell you what, my BTBT trade's starting to push up pretty nicely here. That's for sure. I'm not going to put it on the main special list. I just talked about it. So if you want to take my recommendation on a swing trade for that, then be my guest. But don't just lean into the trade and force it. I studied the chart last night, and thankfully the position fell into my lap this morning. I was there. I watched it. I took it, and thankfully, if you could hear me, if you could hear that, that's me knocking on my wooden desk. I'm knocking on wood because we're not truly out of the doghouse yet. I mean, granted, if this flies up, I'll say that we will be, but this could easily pull back down a bit come tomorrow morning, and if so, that's fine. All right, folks, if there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than 5% that you would want me to call out or look at here pretty quickly, then just type it in the chat board. Let me know. Ooh, actually, here right now from Treasured about 5 minutes ago on YouTube saying the METX trade ripping. And it's a cheapie. Normally, these stocks below $1 we don't always trade because they don't always make these big, concise moves. But I really appreciate this call out right now. Definitely a cheapie, but making a nice big pop. Yeah, for right now, it would be hard for us to not put this METX on the list. For right now, let's just make sure the volume doesn't die off. And if it does, then we'll likely see it pull back. But should that happen, let's see it begin to move up from that point. It's not just to say to jump in this trade and to expect for it to run up. If this dumps back down, last thing that you want to have happen is be in this position on 5, 10, 15,000 shares and for it to snap down 3, 4, 5 cents, right? From Henry, he says CCJ. Nah, nothing really happening here right now, Henry. I appreciate the call out. It made a nice pop earlier today. It's just super flat for the meantime. Cardano ADA having a decent day, says Brian. You knew I'd get to that comment. Yeah, a little pop up. Nothing really to write home about just yet, but I'm watching it a minute and nice day so far. If it pops up more, Brian, come Friday, I'll be talking all about it come Friday into the weekend. KPTI is already on the list. This one, at least for right now, it's although a little range bound. This stock at least is trading a lot of volume per minute. It still looks somewhat interesting. I would say it needs to make the pop soon, though. Sooner than later, we got this. We got to get this thing to go. If not, then it might end up being a better short opportunity, like I had mentioned earlier. Last one here from Leda QS. Yeah, I like this one. I feel like my job would be on the line if I don't put this on the list. No, I'm joking around when I say that, of course. But Fausto was calling this out earlier today, right? I know he just got off a call right now, but if he's watching the meeting, listening to me, and I don't put it on the list, oh, that would be a shame, right? So definitely, no brainer. We're gonna put QuantumScape on our watch list here. Great call. All right, folks, I think that just about wraps it up. I don't really see much else out there. No other comments from us on Facebook Live or YouTube. And of course, for all of us live inside the trading room, I don't see anything else either. And that's fine. So, folks, for right now, we got about 6 or 7 stocks to work with. I'm going to post and tweet the picks out to you right now. For all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, I appreciate you sticking with me today, as well as every afternoon. If you have any other questions, feel more than free to send over a quick email right to my handle here. I'll post it right on the stream, josh@ctutrading.com. Last one at the bell, at the horn from Mitch Connor, DBGI, popped up a bit right now. I don't know. I think the volume just totally died off after that big spike. So, hey, I'm going to pass on putting this on the main list for right now. But if this ends up making another pop, I'm sure that Rich would call it out live inside the trading room. Rich L. All right, Mitch. All right, folks. So for all of us there, otherwise, Bill, Andrea, Leda, Brian, Chris, Henry, all of us otherwise there, I appreciate you folks. And otherwise, I look forward to speaking to most of us at least coming up in class at 3:05 p.m. Eastern time. Take care.